Hi, my name's Susan and I teach textile design with South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture. From the bit of woven fabric we made last week, we're going to turn it into a little pouch purse thing today. So it's just a little lined bag that could be used as a pencil case or something like that. So what you need is your piece of fabric and a piece of lining fabric, and they should be no shorter than 21.5 centimetres by 27.5 centimetres. You'll also need a 20 centimetre zip, and to start with we're going to draw up a pattern. So just take a piece of A4 paper and turn it in the landscape way, and down the middle of the paper I'm going to draw a line 13 centimetres. And down that line you're going to count down 3 centimetres and put a little notch. From this 3 centimetre mark, I'm going to draw a horizontal line of 19 centimetres, so we're wanting to get that in the middle, so a 9.5 in the middle. And at the bottom, we're going to make it 15 centimetres, so we're going 7.5. This is the bottom line, so we're going to draw up corners that are going to be cut corners, so you're going to go up the way by 2.5 centimetres and 2.5 across as well. And these two end lines are just going to be joined. This is going to be placed in the fold. And then from here to here, we're going to just sort of sketch a kind of curve. This can be evened out when you're cutting it. You can just fold it over so both sides are equal. And that's the pattern, but before we cut it, I'm going to add a seam allowance of 7mm. So that will go right round the whole pattern before you cut it out. Okay, and that's the pattern there. So I've got one cut out in a heavier card, which is easier to draw around, and I'm going to draw around the back of this fabric. And then start cutting it out. Once you have your two fabric pieces cut in the pattern, we want to put some notches, so we we can match them up. So you're just going to cut them in half, fold them in half, and into a quarter. And then just take a little notch out the top, just a small fraction. Same with the zip. This one just in half, it's a bit bulky to quarter it. And from a piece of the lining fabric, if you cut a tab that's 10 centimetres by 5 centimetres, and that we can put on the outside of the purse. That'll be folded over and over again. So first of all, we're going to pin the zip in place, and we're going to do it first on the outer fabric. The right side of the fabric towards you and the wrong side of the zip. So it's right to right when you're pinning it. Just go in the middle first, and you're just matching the notches. Now before we pin the rest of it, I'm going to fold away the excess of the zip. So I'm just going to fold it to the side and down and put a couple of stitches in each piece. Now you can check if the zip is going just before your seam allowance starts. I'm going to make the wee tab bit first. This is optional, it's not really important, but I've just folded the fabric over and over again just to hide the raw edges, and I'm going to just stitch it each side. I've set the machine for a larger straight stitch, which is nicer when I top stitching. And this is going to get put onto the outside of your purse. You have to think which way it's going, because it can't go in the lining, so we have to have the edges to the raw edge of the fabric so they're all together. And try and put it where the purse is shut, put it at the opposite side, and it has a better effect. Pin through, that's too thick. Okay, and just do a couple of stitches backwards and forwards to hold it in place. And now we're going to start sewing the zip. It's tricky to get all this fabric together, so it's probably better to put the machine from the fast setting either down to the middle or the slow one. Okay. Try and start on the zip rather than running onto it, because the amount of fabric's too thick for it to run over. So if you start on it and go backwards and forwards, it holds better. And if you're putting your pins horizontally, you can just run over them with the machine. And when you get to the end bit, you can lift your foot and pull the zip down a little bit. Reposition it in the same place. Now I'm going to go over the notch because I don't know if it's caught in enough. To do the other side, I'm going to change up to a zipper foot. So just a little clip at the back of your machine to release your foot. And I'm going to put it on the right side of the zip. It's a notch to notch first of all. So just trim off all the threads so we don't get them caught when we're doing the lining next. Turn your pouch the right way round just to see that it's okay. Pressing it down with just your fingers. Everything's been caught in, that's fine. So, you're turning your zip towards you this time when you're doing your pinning of the lining, so that once that's sewn, you're not going to see the stitching from the last row, okay? Just checking, I've got a bit of stitch in there, but that should be okay when it's turned round. So I'm moving the lining right round the purse, and that's it. I'm doing exactly the same in the opposite side. So. If you were using a patterned lining, you would have to remember it would be right side to right side. This being plain, it doesn't really matter. So we're going to turn the purse completely outside in now. Once we've checked it's all been caught in. It's okay. Yep. Now it's important to leave the zip open, even if it's just a little bit, because otherwise you have a problem turning it back the right way round. So flatten everything down, and we're going to just pin it square. Just putting pins in these parts just so that it's not going to move about when I'm sewing it. First of all, we're going to sew right down the edges and leave a gap, and the gap so we can turn the whole thing outside in again. So the easiest way is just to mark it with a pin as far as you want to stop. So I'm going to leave it just a wee bit before the corner on that side. Actually, I'll leave it before the corner on the lining side. So the corner's got to be done before the outside in bit. So I'll probably leave about 7-8 centimetres. back stitch the ends. So this bit we've just got a little piece to sew and then the gap. And I'm just going to close the gap just before the zip so that it's not going to interfere with the lining. Quite a bulk there, so it might have to be done in 2 parts. Okay, to make the corners, I'm just going to put the middle fold to where the 2 seams meet, and that makes it a kind of 3-dimensional corner. So you can pin that down if you feel more comfortable with it, but I think it's easier just doing it, holding it. Back stitch first. Just reposition it so the seam's flat. going to trim the bulk off the corners, but it makes it a neater job inside when it's turned outside in, or turned the right way round, I should say. So you're just going to look for the gap in your side seam, and this is a bit tricky, but you're going to pull the whole purse through it. So just taking bits at a time through. If I can get this zip through first, it's the bulkiest part. Okay, so I'm just pressing it through with my fingers so it sort of sits right first of all, just to see if I need to do anything else to it. Trim off any wee loose threads. That's okay. Now you've still got a big hole in the seam, and we're just going to slip stitch that. So. Okay, so all that's left to do really is just to press it so it sits nice. If you wanted, you could top stitch right along the zip, but I don't think this machine would actually take the bulk of that amount of fabric, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Okay, to finish it, all I'm going to do is press the seam at the zip. It's just to stop the bulk coming up and catching in the zip, and after time it'll sit no problem. So just a press round where the zip is on both sides. And that's it finished. Thanks for joining me, and I'll try some other textile project next week.